Baruch haba Hashem Yahuwah. Yahusha, living water. Baruch haba Hashem Yahuwah. I'll sing out with praise to you. Your name is beautiful to me, my King. I'll sing out with praise to you. My heart desires to honor you, my God. I sing out with praise to you, Yahusha, living Torah. Baruch haba Hashem Yahuwah. Yahusha, living Torah. Baruch haba Hashem Yahuwah. I sing out with praise to you. Your name is beautiful to me, my King. I sing out with praise to you. My heart desires to honor you, my God. I'll sing out with praise to you, Yahusha, living Torah. Baruch haba Hashem Yahuwah. Baruch haba Hashem Yahuwah. Baruch haba Hashem Yahuwah. Baruch haba Hashem Yahuwah.
Hear, O Yisrael, Yahuwah our Elohim. Yahuwah is one. And you shall love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them upon your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. And the second one is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Ooh-ah. Shabbat shalom, beloved of Yahuwah. Hello, everybody. Glad everybody's here. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you had a nice week, whether it's been a long one or a short one. Doesn't really matter as long as you spent time with Yahuwah. Got to know Yahuwah better. Still a little bit daylight here in Texas, so we're still anticipating the Shabbat, but it'll be here soon enough. And it's just a wonderful day of delight, something to look forward to every week. Yahuwah's rest day, Yahuwah's Shabbat, where we can be obedient to Yahuwah. Don't you just love being obedient to Yahuwah and obeying his statutes and his commands and his laws and doing what he says to do? It just makes you feel good inside, all inside from top of your head to the bottom soles of your feet. It makes you just thrive and feel great inside to be obedient to Yahuwah, to our Maker. And I just love it. And I hope you love it too. I love it. I love it. I want more of it. My most favorite thing to do in this entire world is to talk about Yahuwah and how great and awesome and mighty his majesty is. And I hope all of you feel the same way. So we got a pretty good little study set up this evening. We're going to talk about the bride of Yahuwah, the bride of Yahusha, if you will, or the body of Yahusha, or the assembly of Yahusha, all the same thing. Matter of fact, the bride goes by many different names, known by many different titles. The bride is well known, probably best known, if you will, as Yezreel. It's also she's also known as the camp of the set apart ones, the beloved city, simply the bride, living stones, the great city, a spiritual house, a set apart priesthood, sons of light, dwelling place, third hekel or temple, and living stones that make up the third temple of Yahusha, of Yahuwah, making up the structure of the new city in their new immortal bodies. So all these different titles, all these different names, if you will, references, all reference the bride or the chosen ones, the elect, the election, wise managers, first fruits, branches, the Nazarene, chosen ones, and many others. References the bride. And so most of them are Hebraic idioms that references the bride, but nevertheless, she's known as all those plus some. So very important this evening for us to understand who the bride is, what the bride is, where the bride is, in order for us to be the bride. And we have a lot of brothers and sisters out here that join us every week and putting videos out on the internet that proclaim a very intriguing concept of being the bride. And so this is very important then for us to understand exactly how we're supposed to achieve that higher calling. How do we become the bride? If we want to be the bride, don't you think we need to know how to be the bride? And absolutely we do. And so hopefully this lesson here this evening will show you how to be the bride for those who want to achieve this higher calling, or the Lamb's wife, if you will. And I suppose that this study here are for those mainly those of us who are not the bride, have not achieved that higher calling yet, but perhaps those of us who think we are the bride, but really are not, because we really don't understand how to achieve that status, that higher calling, that remnant group, that those chosen ones. So the ones of those of us who think that perhaps are not really the bride, but think we are the bride, maybe this lesson here is especially meant for those in that category. And like I said, the bride here that we'll be speaking of is the same thing as a wife. So this will be speaking of Yahusha's wife, the Lamb's wife. Okay. And it doesn't matter if you're male or female. You're still his wife if you're in the assembly of Yahusha. If you are in the body of Yahusha and he indwells you, you're the living stones that he's erecting, building up in his third temple in order to indwell for eternity. You are his wife, whether you be male or female. And don't forget, scripture says that in the eternal reign, there will be no male and female, neither will we marry or procreate. We'll be like the messengers. We'll be spiritual beings, just like the messengers, okay, and the Shemayim. Okay, so let me say hello to a few people, and then we're going to get started in this very crucial, very, very vital and important topic for those who want to achieve the higher calling and be the bride of the Lamb, be the wife of the Lamb. Okay, so let me say hello to a few people and we'll get going. Sandra Brunston, glad you are here, sister. Levi Davis, glad you're here, brother. Davey Steed, glad you are here, brother. Kate Connell, glad you're here, sister. Peggy Russell, glad you're here, sister. Valerie from Hollywood, glad you are here, sister Valerie. Brother Lou White, glad you're here. Sister Phyllis White, glad you are here. And be the bride. We're going to find out exactly how to do that this evening. Brother Phil Dickey, glad you are here. Sharon glad you are here. In a little while, glad you are here, Sister Yami. And it's about 38 minutes to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Shabbat. Absolutely. And thanks for clarifying that and making it easy for us to understand when Yahuwah's rest day is. It's a very simple count. Even a child could do it and count them on their fingers. A kindergartner could keep track of the Shabbat. Now let me go way out and on a limb here and get really wild and crazy with this guesstimate, and just let me say that I think maybe, possibly, there's a slight possibility that Brother Raul is watching. So welcome, Brother Raul. Mr. Three Jobs, glad you're here, Brother John. Sharon C., glad you're here, sister. Let me just take a wild stab at this again. I mean, there's a slight possibility here that Brother Ike may be with us and watching this evening. What do you think about that? So welcome, Brother Ike, to the Nazarene Assembly. Joseph Hessen, glad to see you here, brother. Sister Rose White, glad to see you here. Edwin Messenger, glad you're here, brother. All righty then. There's some people trickling in, but we're going to get started nevertheless. Okay, so the bride of Yahusha, or the Lamb's wife. All righty then. Okay, so we got lots and lots and lots of scriptural references this evening on this subject, and but we're going to begin by tapping into Brother Lou White's Fossilized Customs, 12th edition, and there's a fairly decent section in here about the bride. And we're going to go ahead and share that. If those of you that already have Fossilized Customs, you may want to turn to page 317, and we're going to be covering pages 317 through page 322 this evening in Fossilized Customs. And if you'll read along with me, it would be you'll probably get more out of it, and we will from there we will enter into the BYNV, and then we will see what Scripture has to say on this account, and hopefully by the end of this study, we're all going to know exactly what we need to do to be the bride. So again, Fossilized Customs, 12th edition, page 317 by Brother Lou White. And here we go. Come, I shall show you the bride, the Lamb's wife. So Paul speaks of this bride, and so does the writer of Revelation, and the prophets of Yahuwah as well. The war in heaven is still waging, and the bride will become a fortress on the day of redemption, also known as the return of Yahusha. At the end of the Great Tribulation, after 1,000 years, rebellion being cast alive in the lake of fire, the bride is discussed by one of the messengers that released the 7 last plagues, which would be the 7 vials or the 7 bowls, or otherwise known as the wrath of Yahuwah. So the tribulation years, the last 3.5 years allocated to mankind, remain in the before the 6,000th year it comes, is the wrath of Hashatan. But after the 3.5 years, the Hashatan's time will be cut short by Yahusha, and right after the wrath of Yahuwah takes place, then he will be back immediately after. Okay, so in Revelations 21:9, which we're going to cover intensely here and toward the end of tonight's study, it says, "And one of the 7 messengers who held the 7 bowls filled with the 7 last plagues came to me and spoke with me, saying, Come, and I shall show you the bride, the Lamb's wife." The bride is described as a great city in Revelations, coming from the Shemaim, and her light was like a most precious stone, clear as crystal, and named the New Jerusalem. The 12 gates each bear a name for a tribe of Yisrael, and there is a qualification stated concerning those who may enter her. People practicing error will be blocked from entering. Revelations 22:14-15 is very clear. It states, "Blessed are those doing his commands, so that the authority shall be theirs unto the tree of life, and to enter through the gates into the city. But outside are the dogs, and those who enchant with drugs, and those who whore, and the murderers, and the idolaters, and all who love and do falsehood." So unconditional obedience to the commands of Yahuwah is required in order to enter into this new city. Not unconditional indulgence, as many false prophets and teachers have stated, been repeating. Repetition doesn't make anything true. That's such a true statement. So, it doesn't matter how many lies you tell or how often you repeat a lie. A lie is still a lie. Never changes. We are given our belief as a gift, and that gift and that belief produces the good works, obedience to the Torah of Yahuwah. If we practice idolatry or worship Yahuwah in a way he did not command worship, we must purge such things and learn what pleases him. We are counted righteous by belief in things and learn what pleases him. We are counted righteous by belief, and our belief is perfected and shown by our obedience. Our obedience is the fruit of righteousness. We can identify a tree by the fruit we see on it. By the fruit we see in the bride, we can identify her. If we see what we think is the bride observing Christmas, Easter, Sunday worship, Lent, Ash Wednesday, and Halloween, all of which stem directly from pagan practices and times, is it remotely possible that we are deceived? Where in Scripture was the bride instructed to practice any of these things? Houses of worship using steeples or obelisks and bells are of pagan origins. If the Christmas tree didn't originate from Yahuwah's Torah, how did it get mixed up with what people do? It is not secular either. It is an Asherah. Eventually, the bride currently has a few major spots and wrinkles which need to be wiped away. Yeah, think. Behavior is the evidence of our belief. Brother Jacob or James tells us, "You see then that a man is declared right by works and not by belief alone." He continues the idea in a later verse. "For as the body without this Ruach is dead, so also the belief is dead without the works." Paul tells us that a person without belief, living solely in a perspective of the flesh or the mind of the flesh, doesn't want anything to do with obeying. In Romans 8:5-9, it says, "For those who live according to the flesh set their minds on the matters of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit, the matters of the Spirit. For the mind of the flesh is death, but the mind of the Spirit is life and peace. Because the mind of the flesh is hatred towards Elohim. For it does not subject itself to the Torah of Elohim, neither indeed is it able. Those who are in the mind of the flesh are unable to please Elohim. But you are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit, if indeed the Spirit of Elohim dwells in you. And if anyone does not have the Spirit of Mashiach, this one is not his. The mind of the flesh is hatred towards Yahuwah, because it does not subject itself to his Torah. There are plenty of preachers who do not want anyone to submit to the Torah of Yahuwah. And they tell us this again and again to make sure everyone gets on board to the idea. The bride was hidden, as in a field, long ago. In this parable, the field is the world. As a result of disobedience, the bride, Yisrael, or Yahuwah's wife, was scattered thoroughly among the nations, driven from their land. This was the curse, and it remains in effect. The parable in Matthew 13:44 speaks of a treasure, lost Yisrael, the bride, found by a man, Yahusha, the pursuer of his bride, who bought the field, paid the ultimate price. The bride is now his property, but she remains hidden. Like Yusuf in Egypt, Yahusha will one day reveal himself to his brothers, to all the scattered tribes of Yisrael. The first work of Yahusha involved atonement, but the second work is redemption. He is sent to seek and deliver which was lost, and will unite the house of Yehuda, the ruling tribe, and the house of Yisrael, also called Ephraim, the firstborn blessing tribe, into one stick, as we can read about in Ezekiel 37, verses 15 through 19. So the bride will be revealed on the day of redemption. Isaiah 54:5 says, "For your maker is your husband. Yahuwah of hosts is his name, and the set apart one of Israel is your redeemer. He is called the Elohim of all the earth." Yahusha has chosen his bride, but he has not yet taken possession of her. The wedding supper is still ahead of us at a future festival of Sukkot, the harvest festival we are to observe for 7 days in the fall of the year. You can read about this festival in Leviticus 23 and Deuteronomy 16. Notice in the following text the references to a booth or tents, or the Hebrew word Sukkot, will be the time of the return of Yahusha at the harvesting of the Eretz. Revelations 21, verse 2 and 3 says, "And I, Yahuchanan, saw the set-apart city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of the heaven from Elohim, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the heaven saying, See, the booth of Elohim is with men, and he shall dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and Elohim himself shall be with them and be their Elohim." Yahusha is preparing his wife so that she may be without spot or wrinkle. Again, from more texts, we can see our redemption comes during the observances of the 7th month, after the last shofar or feast of trumpets. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 13 through 18 says, "Now, brothers, we do not wish you to be ignorant concerning those who have fallen asleep, lest you be sad as others who have no expectation. For if we believe that Yahusha died and rose again, so also Elohim shall bring with him those who sleep in Yahusha. For this we say to you by the word of the Master, that we, the living, who are left over at the coming of the Master, shall in no way go before those who are asleep, because the Master himself shall come down from heaven with a shout, with the voice of a chief messenger, and with the shofar of Elohim, and the dead in Mashiach shall rise first. Then we, the living, who are left over, shall be called away, together with him in the clouds, to meet the Master in the air, and so we shall always be with the Master." So encourage one another with these words. Okay, so when Yahusha is coming back with his messengers on white horses in the clouds, he will call his election, his bride, up to him, and we will all take off the dead that have in the first resurrection, and those who remained alive and were changed into immortality, together will be caught away with him, will fly away and be caught away with him into the clouds, and with his army of messengers as he's returning to the Eretz, to the Mount of Olives, immediately after the tribulation years. And so we know then that the first resurrection involves the bride. That's your first hint. Everyone else will have to wait 1,000 years to be woke up. The bride will have already been woke up, lived through the millennium reign, ruling as priests and sovereigns with Yahusha, and have received their immortal bodies. So called away in the above text is the same Greek word used in Acts 8:39, harpazo, or G726, to seize, Latin raptus, as in seizing property. The reapers will take the weeds out first on Yom Kippur one of these years. The wheat will be those left behind. Enabled by the Spirit of Yahusha, Philip transferred or translated to another location instantly, as together. We will also at the coming of the Master. Just for the sake of an example, let's pretend the feminist movement never happened, and we're thinking like a person who lived long ago. To be Yahusha's property, his bride, we must examine how Scripture identifies those who live within the bounds of the covenant of marriage to him. So the everlasting covenant is a marriage covenant. It's a love covenant consisting of 10 marriage vows. Every denomination on earth sincerely believes they are the bride of the Mashiach, ahead of all others. When Yahusha is away to receive his kingdom and prepare a place for his bride, those who await his return are partly wise and partly foolish. In Matthew 25, 1 through 13, 10 maidens seem to correspond to the 10 tribes of northern Israel. Some have wisdom and have prepared themselves more than others. The oil or the perfume that is discussed represents the guidance of Yahusha's Ruach HaKodesh related to his name, helping make the wise maidens aware of what is needed to prepare themselves for the abrupt arrival of the bridegroom. Indeed, the wedding feast is an exclusive affair. Yahuwah says we will obey in the latter days while among the Gentiles. Deuteronomy 4:30 says, in your distress during the great tribulation, when all these words shall come upon you in the latter days, you shall return to Yahuwah your Elohim and shall obey his voice. Deuteronomy 31 through 4 says, and it shall be, when all these words come upon you, the blessing and the curse which I have set before you, and you shall bring them back to your heart among all the Gentiles, where Yahuwah your Elohim drives you, and shall turn back to Yahuwah your Elohim and obey his voice, according to all that I commanded you today, with all your heart and with all your being, you and your children. Then Yahuwah your Elohim shall turn back your captivity, and shall have compassion on you, and shall turn back and gather you from all the peoples where Yahuwah your Elohim has scattered you. If any of you are driven out to the farthest parts under the heavens, from there Yahuwah your Elohim does gather you, and from there he does take you. Ezekiel 39, 28 and 29 says, and they shall know that I am Yahuwah their Elohim, who sent them into exile among the Gentiles, and then gathered them back to their own land and left none of them behind. And no longer do I hide my face from them, for I shall have poured out my spirit on the house of Israel, declares the Master Yahuwah. The one doing this is Yahusha, the bridegroom, who will end our captivity. Who is Yahusha married to? Is it the church, as we have been told? No, it is not. The bride, the children of Yisrael. The church, derived from a pagan word, circe, is really the kaha, or congregation of Yisrael. Yisrael is anyone who enjoins to the covenant, walking according to the Torah. We who teach the covenant are called fishers of men and hunters. Yirmiyahu 16:14-16 says, "Therefore see, the days are coming, declares Yahuwah, when it is no longer said, Yahuwah lives, who brought up the children of Israel from the land of Mitzrayim. But Yahuwah lives, who brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands where he had driven them. For I shall bring them back into their land I gave to their fathers. See, I'm sending for many fishermen, declares Yahuwah, and they shall fish them. And after that I shall send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them, in every mountain and every hill, and out of the holes of the rocks." The day of distress, or otherwise known as the Great Tribulation, in Yirmiyahu 16:19 says, "O Yahuwah, my strength and my stronghold and my refuge. In the day of distress, the Gentiles shall come to you from the ends of the earth and say, our fathers have inherited only falsehood, futility, and there is no value in them. False terms like God and Lord will cease." Notice Psalms 80:14-19. It says, "Return, we beg you, O Elohim Zaboeth. Look down from heaven and see and visit this vine, and the stock which your right hand has planted, and the son whom you made strong for yourself. It is burned with fire, it is cut down. They perished at the rebuke of your face. Let your hand be upon the one at your right hand, upon the son of Adam, who you made strong for yourself, and we shall not backslide from you. Revive us and let us call your name upon your name. Turn us back, O Yahuwah Elohim Zabuath, and cause your face to shine, that we might be delivered." The bride will eventually know her husband and take his name on her lips. The bride has always been Israel, into which Gentiles must engraft. We can read about this engrafting of the Gentiles in Isaiah 56, Jeremiah 3, Acts 15, Ephesians 3, and most prominently Romans 11. Those who bond with Yahuwah do so through his covenant of love, his everlasting covenant, his marriage covenant, if you will. Foreigners enter the covenant by immersion in the name of Yahusha, calling upon him for deliverance through his blood offered for sin, and promising to obey him, becoming his bride, taking their place in the commonwealth of Israel. In Ephesians 2, verses 18-13, it discusses as it discusses in Ephesians 2, 8-13. The Shabbat is mentioned because it is the sign of the eternal covenant in Isaiah 56. The mark of Yahuwah, his name and his word are above all. There's 3 temples. The first 2 temples made by hands have been destroyed. There's a third spiritual temple. There's also a third physical temple coming too, which will not be a temple of Yahuwah. Everyone knows of the two temples which were built on the Temple Mount, and we keep hearing about the rebuilding of the third temple. Solomon built the first one, and the second was begun with the return of the Yehudim from Babylon under the leadership of Nehemiah and Ezra. Herod the Great expanded it, so the second temple is often referred to as Herod's temple. The first temple was destroyed in 586 BCE with the invasion of Nebuchadnezzar's army from Babel. Every stone was removed from the second temple in 70 CE or AD, when the Roman army led by Titus laid waste to Jerusalem. In the fury of the battle, the fire melted the gold decor, and the gold flowed into the crevices of the building stones, or the foundational stones, I should say. These two temples served during the atonement phase of Yahusha's work. A third temple built without the hands of men is coming from the skies and will endure for all eternity. It is made up of living stones, and it is the bride. They are idioms, wise managers, first fruits, Nazarene, branches, chosen ones. The bride is described in various ways. Various terms and phrases are used to describe the same thing, the bride. All of these refer to the redeemed. The foremost term used throughout Scripture is Yisrael. Those in the covenant and many descendants who are yet to be recalled to it are referred to as the camp of the set-apart ones, the beloved city, the bride, living stones, the great city, a spiritual house, a set-apart priesthood, sons of light, dwelling place, temple, etc. The bride will literally be living stones making up the structure of the new city in their new immortal bodies. Notice carefully what is declared to us in the message to the assembly of Philadelphia in Revelations 3, verses 10 through 12. Because you have guarded my word of endurance, I also shall guard you from the hour of trial which shall come upon all the world, to try those who dwell on the earth. See, I am coming speedily. Hold what you have, that no one take your crown. He who overcomes, I shall make him a supporting post in the dwelling place of my Elohim. And he shall by no means go out. And I shall write on him the name of my Elohim and the name of the city of my Elohim, the new Jerusalem, which comes down out of the heaven from my Elohim, in my renewed name. The prophet Daniel was told about the great tribulation, the first resurrection, and given a description of the shining, or those who have insight. In Daniel 12, 1 through 3, it says, Now at that time Michael shall stand up, the great head who is standing over the sons of your people. And there shall be a time of distress, a great tribulation, such as never was since there was a nation until that time. And at that time your people shall be delivered, every one who is found written in the book. And many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth wake up, some to everlasting life and some to reproaches, everlasting abhorrence. And those who have insight shall shine like the brightness of the expanse, and those who lead many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. We will help lead many to righteousness during the great distress. There is no pre-trib rapture. The Torah is instructions in kindness and is to be written on our hearts. Torah instructs us in love. Peter describes us as living stones in 1 Peter 2, verses 4 through 8. Drawing near to him, a living stone, rejected indeed by men, but chosen by Elohim and precious. you also, as living stones, are being built up a spiritual house, a set-apart priesthood to offer up spiritual slaughter offerings acceptable to Elohim through Yahusha Mashiach. Because it is contained in the scripture, see, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, chosen, precious, and he who believes on him shall by no means be put to shame. This preciousness, then, is for you who believe. But to those who are disobedient, the stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone, and a stone of stumbling, and a rock that makes for falling, who stumble because they are disobedient to the word, to which they also were appointed. The word is the covenant or 10 commandments. In Revelations 19:7, it says, let us be glad and rejoice and give him praise, for the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his wife prepared herself. So he's wanting a wife without spot, wrinkle, and without blemish. He's not wanting a dirty wife. He wants a clean, virgin wife. The only thing that can return his wife back into her virgin status and clean her up is the blood of the Lamb of Yahuwah. All right. So that's about it right there. As far as fossilized customs goes, talking about the bride. So now let's get back and let's get into scripture here. But before we do, I just want to point something out that maybe Brother Isaiah Diaz from El Paso. Glad you're here, brother. Ridge Hill Jelly, glad you're here, sister. Yahuwah is working on me. Glad you're here. Okay, so I just want to show y'all something that maybe you know about and maybe you don't. But just want you to see that the circus is not the bride. The church is not the bride. The church argues among itself who the true church is and who the bride will be. Who's the true church, the bride, right? Who's going to be raptured. They think there's a pre-tribulation, the true church will be raptured and won't have to go through the tribulation years. But scripture is pretty clear that the bride's going to be here during the tribulation years. We're going to instruct many in the way of righteousness. If we're not here, how could we do that? As was written in Daniel. Furthermore, Yahusha said that he's going to cut the day short for the sake of the elect. If it wasn't for him cutting the day short, no flesh would be delivered. But for the sake of the election, he will cut the day short. The wrath of Hashatan short. The tribulation years short, in order so that he can deliver the elect. Otherwise, no flesh will be delivered. So if he's going to cut the day short for the sake of the elect, don't you think the elect will be here going through the tribulation years? Of course they will be. Otherwise, there would be no need for him to cut the day short or the wrath of Hashatan short. Okay, so the church, as much as they want to make you believe that they are the bride, they are not. The bride, there's going to be two groups. Okay, first of all, there's going to be two groups, two flocks. Okay, and we're going to get into this, but just so you know, there's going to be the little flock, and then there's going to be the other flock, or the great throng of sheep. Okay, so the great throng flock and the little flock. Okay, which Yahusha calls the other flock. And so we're going to get into this here in shortly. But before we do, I just need to touch on this church teachings, everyone, that the circus, at least one circus, one denomination out of all of them, is going to be the bride. It will be raptured away and granted immunity to the tribulation years, where they preach a pre-tribulation rapture. It's not true. Okay, so a while back, a few years back, whatever it's been, I started. I had listened to Lou White speaking of the of them admitting certain corruptions in their English translations that they admitted to in their preface or their preface or their preface, however you want to say it. And so I started reading different prefaces within different English translations. And I found all of them to be quite interesting and eye-opening. So if you've never done it, you should. But one thing that I really want to point out here is here in the NIV particularly. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just a short few paragraphs here. And I want to show you something. Now, keep in mind that there's many translations out there. There's translations in almost every language on the planet. Okay. But we're going to focus here this evening on English translations. And there's a lot of them as well. I think there's 3,000 just English translations. There's quite a few of them. Could be wrong in that number, but there's a lot. But anyway, here in the prefaces in this NIV, it says, in regard to the divine name, and they have it written down here as YHWH, which we all know is incorrect. The W wouldn't be that big of a deal if it was used in the manner that it was originally made to be used. Okay, so double U would mean two U's back to back, consecutive, two consecutive U's to create the ooh sound. Okay, the W was changed to wah, and sound became a consonant, not a vowel, and became a wah sound later on in history. Okay, but it originally W or two consecutive U's were supposed to be a vowel that made the ooh sound. Okay, in regards to the divine YHWH, commonly referred to as the tetragrammaton, the translators adopted the device used in most English versions of rendering that name as LORD in capital letters to distinguish it from Adoni or Adonai. Right there's the one I want us to focus on, that word device. And so I read this, I said, device, adopted the device, and it just kind of struck me as strange that they would put device in there, call it a device, which, to me, a device would be something like a cell phone or a computer or, something like that. But adopted device to rendering the name as LORD. And I said, well, there's something strange about that. And so, in capital letters disguised it from Adonai, another Hebrew word rendering LORD, for which small letters are used. Whereas the two names stand together in the Old Testament as a compound name of God, they are rendered as sovereign L-O-R-D. Okay, so I don't want to read too much here. I just want to drive this point home. Okay, so device. And so it struck me really weird, this word device. And I thought, well, what in the world does that mean? Why would they use such a peculiar word as device? And so I went online and I bought me a really good dictionary. It's the Noah Webster of 1828. And it's an American dictionary of the English language, and it concentrates mainly on religious terms. And so I went ahead and bought this. It's a facsimile of the first edition, and so here it is. See, Christian education. So it has a lot of the Christian verbiage in it and defines it. So I thought, well, this must have the word device in it as pertaining to these religious sects. And so I got it, and I found that it did. And so as I looked up the word device, which was prominently used in the NIV, and even some other translations use device. So I looked it up, and it said that which is formed by design. I said, formed by design? Or invented, a scheme, a sacrificial contrivance, or a stratagem, or a project. Sometimes in a good sense, more generally in a bad sense, as sacrifice or as artifices are usually employed for bad purposes. In a good sense, his device is against Babylon to destroy it. In a bad sense, he disappointeth the device of the crafty. They imagined a mischievous device. A mischievous device? And so it goes on, but you're getting the point. And so I'm thinking, what in the world is this talking about? A scheme? A scheme? A mischievous device? A stratagem? So I saw the word stratagem. I said, well, maybe stratagem will clarify this a little bit better. What this device that they replaced Yahuwah's his true name with. And so I looked that up, stratagem. And lo and behold, it was in here. So I went to stratagem, and it says to lead an army, an artifice, particularly in warfare. A plan or scheme for deceiving an enemy. Any artifice, a trick by which some advantage is intended to be obtained. And I about fell off my chair at that point. And I said, are you kidding me? This is a scheme. This is a trick in which some advantage is intended to be obtained. This is an artifice, particularly in warfare, a plan or scheme for deceiving an enemy. Are you telling me that this translators of these English translations are seeing us as their enemies and using a stratagem against us to deceive us and scheme against us? And the answer was yes, they are. Yes, they are. And so these devices, they replaced our Creator's name with 6,823 times just in the Tanakh, and a bunch of other times in the Nazarene writing, was done in warfare as a plan or a scheme for deceiving an enemy, which is us. We're their enemy. And their plan was to deceive us and keep us from the key of knowledge, which was the Creator's name. You see that? And so that was mind-blowing there for me. And as you can see, I'm not just making this up. There it is. And so that was pretty mind-blowing to me. I don't know about y'all, but here, all these translations out there, these English translations that are using devices, are deceiving us, are meant to deceive us, lead us astray. It's a stratagem, and we are considered their enemy. Now, there's another mind-blowing thing here that I need to tell you before we move on in our study this evening, and that's this. They render the name of our Creator when they go beyond the tetragrammaton, when they go beyond the device and their stratagem, okay? They do put a label or title, put a name on him. And this was changed from YHUH to JHVH, or Jehovah. Jehovah is not his name, okay? That name means ruin, to take to ruin, let me look it up here. Yeah, I know it's ruin. So what they did was they manipulated that and changed his name, which has no grounds, no relationship to Yahuwah at all. It's a totally different name. It's not even close, okay, to his name. It's a totally different name, in other words. Yeah, so Jehovah means wicked. Means wicked or ruin in Hebrew. And it's not related to the name Yahuwah at all. So wicked or ruin. Wow. Any doubt in your mind that that's stratagem? And then they try to point to Yahweh in case they don't trick you with the Jehovah name. You know, they'll lead you to Yahweh so that to keep you deceived and hopefully satisfied, or you stop digging to find out the true name that is truly his name, which is Yahuwah. And so here in the Catholic Bible, if you will, in their preface. It says, the form Jehovah is of a late medieval origin. It is a combination, and they're admitting this in their preface, is a medieval origin. It is a combination of the consonants of the divine name and the vowels attached to it by the Masoretes, but belonging to an entirely different word. Although the American Standard Version had used Jehovah to render the tetragrammaton, the sound of Y being represented by a J and the sound of W by V, as in Latin. For two reasons, the committees that produced the RSV and the NRSV returned to the more familiar usage of the King James Version. Number one, the word Jehovah does not accurately represent any form of the name ever used in Hebrew. They're admitting it right in their preface. Number two, the use of any proper name for the one and only God, as though there were other gods from whom the true God had to be distinguished, began to be discontinued in Yehudism before the Christian era, and is inappropriate for the universal faith of the Christian church. Inappropriate for them. So there you go, man. They admit all that right in their preface. All righty, and so take it for what it's worth, but it appears to me that these English translations are no more than stratagems of our enemy being used against us to lead us astray, keep us confused, and removing the key of knowledge from us. Okay, so with that said, get your hands on the BYNV. Get your hands on the BYNV, and this looks like this. And you can get it for horizon.net, and get yourself a copy of that, where it restores the true name of our Creator and our Deliverer. Now, Yahuwah has no religion. So if you're involved in a religion of any sort, you need to get out of there. Scripture says in Proverbs 14:12, there is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way to death. And that is speaking of religion, traditions. So get out of there. If you're in any religion whatsoever, I don't care what the name of it is. If you're in a religion, get out. Yahuwah has no religion. Catholicism has 1.2 billion followers. It's referred to in Revelation 17, verse 3 through 6, as the mother circus. Okay, and then she's the mother of the harlots. The harlots are the Protestant churches, the runaway daughters, and there's 2.04 billion followers in that false religion as well. So if you're part of the mother circus or one of the harlots, one of the Protestant churches, you need to get out. Think about it. Look at it this way. Christianity has over 2 billion followers. Islam, another large religion, monotheistic religion, actually, has 1.3 billion followers. Catholicism on its own has 1.2 billion followers. So if you combine Catholicism and Christianity together, as we should, because those two represent the white horse in Revelation, we're talking 3.5 billion followers, or there's about. Hinduism, 828 million followers. Buddhism, 367 million followers. These are all religions. Doesn't matter what the name of your religion is. Get out. Seventh-day Adventists, 16 million followers. Judaism, 14.5 million followers. Jehovah Witnesses, 4 million followers. And on and on and on. And so if you put all these people together, all these different religions and traditions and everything together, you have well over 75% of the world's population attending religions and traditions of men. And so if you think about it just a little bit harder, matter of fact, think about it a lot harder. Does this sound as though all these religions or their members, their followers, are on the narrow path? Or does it seem that they may be on the wide road that leads to destruction? Which one do you think they're on? Well, being that they consume 3/4 of the world's population, I'd say there's a really good chance that these people are all on the wide road of destruction. So if you are in a religion of any sort, of any name, any title, get out of there. Turn and run as fast as you can. Get out of there. Get yourself a good translation that doesn't contain devices and the stratagem of those who believe you're their enemy. Okay? All right. So let's get back into scriptures now. Back to the bride. Let's go to Yeshayahu or Isaiah 49, verse 16. 16 through 23. See, I have inscribed you on the palms of my hands. Your walls are always before me. Your sons shall hurry. Your destroyers and those who laid you waste depart from you. Lift up your eyes round about and see. All of them gather together and come to you. As I live, declares Yahuwah, you shall put on all of them as an ornament and bind them on you as a bride does. As a bride does. For your waste in your deserted places in the land of your destruction shall soon be too narrow for the inhabitants, while those who swallowed you up are far away. The sons of your sorrow shall yet say in your ears, the place is too narrow for me, make room for me to live. And you shall say in your heart, who has brought forth these for me? Since I am sorrow and barren, in exile and wandering to and fro. And who reared them? See, I was left alone. From where did these come? And thus said the Master Yahuwah, see, I lift my hand up to the Gentiles and set up my banner for the peoples. And they shall bring your sons in their arms and your daughters carried on their shoulders. And sovereign shall be your foster fathers, and their sovereignnesses your nursing mothers. They bow down to you with their faces to the arets, and lick up the dust of your feet, and you shall know that I am Yahuwah. Those who wait for me shall not be ashamed. So there you see Yahuwah speaking of his bride here, adorning us as a bride. Look at Isaiah 54, 5 through 8. For your maker is your husband. And so it's the same bride. Same husband, same bride. For your maker is your husband. Yahuwah, Zaboeth is his name. And the set apart one of Israel is your redeemer. He is called the Elohim of all the Eretz. For Yahuwah has called you like an Asha, forsaken and grieved in Ruach, like an Asha of youth when you were refused, declares your Elohim. For a little while I have forsaken you, but with great compassion I shall gather you. In an overflow of wrath I hid my face from you for a moment, but with everlasting kindness I shall have compassion on you, said Yahuwah, your Redeemer. He's coming back for his bride. He's going to search out his bride. Look at Isaiah 61 and 62. The Ruach of the Master Yahuwah is upon me, because Yahuwah has anointed me, Aleph Natal, to bring Besorah to the meek. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim release to the captives, and the opening of the prison to those who are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of Yahuwah, and the yom of vengeance of our Elohim, to comfort all who mourn, to appoint to those who mourn in Zion, to give them embellishment for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. And they shall be called trees of righteousness, a planting of Yahuwah, to be adorned. And they shall rebuild the old ruins, raise up the former waste, and they shall restore the ruined cities, the waste of many generations. And strangers shall stand and feed your flocks, and the sons of the foreigner be your plowmen and your vine dressers. And you shall be called priests of Yahuwah, servants of our Elohim. Shall be said of you, you shall consume the strength of the Gentiles and boast in their esteem. Instead of your shame and reproach, they rejoice a second time in their portion. Therefore they take possession a second time in their land. Everlasting joy is theirs. For I, Yahuwah, love right ruling. I hate robbery for burnt offering. And I shall give their reward in truth, and make an everlasting covenant with them. And their seed shall be known among the Gentiles, and their offspring in the midst of the peoples. All who see them shall acknowledge them, that they are the seed Yahuwah has blessed. I greatly rejoice in Yahuwah. My being exalts in my Elohim. For he has put garments of deliverance on me. He has covered me with the robe of righteousness, as a bridegroom decks himself with ornaments, and as a bride adorns herself with jewels. For as the eretz brings forth its bud, as the garden causes the seed to shoot up, so the Master Yahuwah calls his righteousness and praise to shoot up before all the nations. There you go. Speaks of the bride and the bridegroom. 62 says, for Zion's sake I am not silent, and for Jerusalem's sake I do not rest, until her righteousness goes forth as brightness, and her deliverance as a lamp that burns. And the nations shall see your righteousness, and all sovereigns your esteem, and you shall be called by a new name, which the mouth of Yahuwah designates. And you shall be a crown of comeliness in the hand of Yahuwah, and a royal headdress in the hand of your Elohim. No longer are you called forsaken, and no longer is your land called deserted, but you shall be called Kephasabah, and your land married. For Yahuwah shall delight in you, and your land be married to Yahuwah. For as a young man marries a maiden, so shall your sons marry you. And as the bridegroom rejoices over the bride, so shall your Elohim rejoice over you. I have set watchmen on your walls, O Jerusalem, all the yom and all the night continually, who are not silent. You who remember Yahuwah, give yourselves no rest, and give him no rest till he makes Jerusalem a praise of the Eretz. Yahuwah has sworn by his right hand and by the arm of his strength. No more do I give your grain to be food for your enemies, nor do sons of the foreigner drink your new wine, for which you have labored. But those gathering it shall eat it, and praise Yahuwah. And those collecting it shall drink it in my set apart courts. Pass through the gates. Prepare the way for the people. Build up the highway. Remove the stones. Lift up a banner for the peoples. See, Yahuwah has proclaimed to the end of the Eretz. Say to the daughter of Zion, see, your deliverance has come. See, his reward is with him, and his work before him. And they shall be called the Kadesh people, the redeemed of Yahuwah. And you shall be called sought out, a city not forsaken. So here we can see by reading chapter 61 and 62 in context that Yahuwah's promises of a day when the bridegroom will rejoice over his bride. It's very clear. Look at Yirmiyahu chapter 2, 1 through 5. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Go, and you shall cry in the hearing of Jerusalem, saying, Thus said Yahuwah, I remember you, the kindness of your youth, the love of your bridehood, when you went after me in the wilderness, in the land that was not sown. Israel was set apart to Yahuwah, the first fruits of his increase. All who ate of it became guilty. Evil came upon them, declares Yahuwah. Hear the word of Yahuwah, O house of Jacob, and all the clans of the house of Israel. Thus said Yahuwah, what unrighteousness have your fathers found in me, that they have gone far from me, and went after worthlessness and became worthless. So back up here in 2, Go and you shall cry in the hearing of Jerusalem, saying, Thus said Yahuwah, I remember you, the kindness of your youth, the love of your bridehood, when you went after me in the wilderness, as he was their first love. We turn to Revelations 2:4. Go to Revelations 2:4. He confronts them. He says, But I hold this against you, that you have left your first love. Here we find out that I remember you, the kindness of your youth, the love of your bridehood, when you went after me in the wilderness. He was their first love. Bridehood. He married them. He was married to them. He was their first love. Look at Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah 31 through 34. See, the days are coming, says Yahuwah, when I shall make a renewed covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Yehudah, not like the covenant I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Mitzrayim, my covenant which they broke, though I was a husband to them, declares Yahuwah. See, he married them when they're youth. For this is the covenant I shall make with the house of Israel after those days, declares Yahuwah. I shall put my Torah in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and I shall be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. For no longer shall they teach each one his neighbor and each one his brother, saying, Know Yahuwah, for they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them, declares Yahuwah. For I shall forgive their crookedness and remember their sin no more. There you go. He's going to recounsel with them. He's going to remarry with them, bring them back into his marriage covenant with him. So he is seeking a bride. He wants to recounsel. He wants to remarry his bride. And he's going to. The remnant of the seed will be his bride. Don't forget, there's a little flock, and then there's a great throng. Okay, we're going to get into that later here. And things will start opening up more and more here as we continue through scriptures. But it's important that we start in the beginning and proceed toward the end so we can get a really good insight, real good understanding of what's going on with the bride. In order to become the bride, we need to understand the bride and what Yahuwah wants. So Ezekiel 16:8 says, Again I passed by you and looked upon you and saw that your time was the time of love. Time of love. And I spread my skirt over you and covered your nakedness. And I swore an oath to you and entered into a covenant with you. He married them. And you became mine, declares the Master Yahuwah. And I washed you in water, and I washed off your blood, and I anointed you with oil. And I dressed you in embroidered work, and gave you sandals of leather, and I wrapped you in fine linen, and covered you with silk. And I adorned you with ornaments, and I put bracelets on your wrist, and a chain on your neck. And I put a ring on your nose, and earrings in your ears, and a crown of adorning on your head. Thus you were adorned with gold and silver, and your dress was fine linen and silk, and embroidered cloth. You ate fine flour and honey and oil, and you were exceedingly pretty, and became fit for royalty. And your name went out among the Goyim because of your lovelessness. For it was perfect by my splendor which I had put on you, declares the Master Yahuwah. But you trusted in your own loveliness and whored because of your name, and poured out your whoring on everyone passing by who would have it. And you took some of your garments and made multicolored high places for yourself, and whored on them, which should not have come about, nor shall it be. And you took your splendid ornaments of my gold and of my silver that I gave you, and made for yourself images of a male, and whored with them. These would have been, religious objects of sorts. And you took your embroidered garments and covered them, and you set my oil and my incense before them. And my food which I gave you, fine flour and oil and honey which I fed you, you set it before them as sweet incense. And so it was, declared the Master Yahuwah. And you took your sons and your daughters whom you bore to me, and these you slaughtered as food to them. Child sacrificing. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Were your whorings a small matter, that you have slain my children and gave them up to them by causing them to pass through the fire? Molech. And in all your abominations and whorings you did not remember the yamam of your youth, when you were naked and bare, trampled down in your blood. Then it came to be after all your evil, woe, woe to you, declares the Master Yahuwah, that you also built an arch place for yourself and made a high place in every street for yourself. You built your high places at the head of every way, and made your lovingness to be loathed. And you parted your feet to everyone who passed by, and increased your whoring. Wow. And you whored with the sons of Mitzrayim, your neighbors, great of flesh. And you increased your whorings to provoke me. And see, I have stretched out my hand against you, and withdrew your portion, and gave you up to the desire of those who hate you, the daughters of the Philistine, who are ashamed of your wicked way. And you whored with the sons of Asher, without being satisfied, and you whored with them, and still were not satisfied. And you increased your whorings as far as the land of traders, Chaldea, and even then you were not satisfied. How weak is your heart, declares the Master Yahuwah, seeing you do all this, the deeds of the shameless whore. You built the arched place at the head of every way, and built your high place in every street. Yet you were unlike a whore. You scorned payment. The Asha who breaks wedlock, who takes strangers instead of her husband. Unbelievable. Okay, so here we go. The Yasha of his youth, of their youth, turned against him and went whoring. Started running around whoring with all types of different people. Hosea 2:16 through 23 says, and it shall be in that day, declares Yahuwah, that you call me my husband, and no longer call me Baal, or Lord. So here we go. He's predicting a day where his bride, his wife, will begin to call him husband again, and not Baal, not Lord. So he's going to take Lord out of her mouth and replace it with husband. And I shall remove the names of the Baalim from her mouth, and they shall no more be remembered by their name. And in that yom I shall make a covenant for them with the beast of the field, and with the birds of the Shemaim, and with the creeping creatures of the ground. When bow and sword and battle I break from the Eretz, and I shall make them lie down in safety. And I shall take you as a bride to me forever, a bride forever, and take you as a bride to me in righteousness, and in right ruling, and kindness, and compassion. And I shall take you as a bride to me in trustworthiness, and you shall know Yahuwah. And it shall be in that yom that I answer, declares Yahuwah, that I answer the Shemaim, and they answer the Eretz. And the Eretz answer the grain, and the new wine, and the oil, and they answer Yezreel. And I shall sow her for myself in the Eretz, and I shall have compassion on her who had not obtained compassion. And I shall say to those who are not my people, you are my people, while they say, my Elohim. So there you go. He's going to take a bride in righteousness and right ruling and kindness and compassion forever, bride forever. And so he's going to recounsel, he's going to remarry, he's going to have his bride. Now his bride will be with him in the millennium reign here, where it obviously says, and I will make a covenant for them with the beast of the field, the birds of the Shemaim, with the creeping creatures. When bow and sword and battle I break from the Eretz, and they shall make them lie down in safety. That's the millennium reign. So his bride will be in the millennium reign with him as his bride. Okay, and then even further out into the eternal reign forever. Be a bride to me forever. Beyond the millennium reign into the eternal reign. His bride will be with him. Okie dokie. So you can see he's searching for his bride now, and he's going to find his bride. And when he finds his bride, and he erects his third temple, not made with hands, made of living stones, then he's going to marry her. He's going to recounsel with her. He's going to remarry her, and she's going to have prepared herself while she walked in this dust, and she's going to have no wrinkles, no spots, no blemishes. There will be no lie in her mouth. She will not be part of any religion or traditional system. So to be the bride, you must come off that wide road. You must abandon any type of religion or traditional system. You must clean yourself up. You stop pouring around. Leave all the idols behind and get cleaned up totally. As a matter of fact, set yourself apart from the world. So there we have at least some information on what we need to do to be the bride. Okay. All righty. Let's go into the Nazarene writings now. So we know that the bride is going to be selected, is chosen, the election, and it's the third temple spiritually, but it's a temple not made with hands. Okay, it's a spiritual temple that's made with living stones, okay, not made with hands. So we get a first crack at that, or first look at that here in Acts 7:48. So take a look at Acts 7:48 through 50. However, the Most High does not dwell in dwellings made with hands. As the prophet says, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. What house shall you build for me, says Yahuwah? Or what is the place of my rest? Has my hand not made all these? You stiff-necked and uncircumcised in heart and ears, you always resist the Kadesh Ruach as your fathers did. You also do. So now let's look at Acts 17 from there. So you can see here, he doesn't dwell in dwellings made with hands. He doesn't want to dwell in a dwelling place made by human hands. Let's look over at Acts 17 now. Acts 17:24 says, Yahuwah, who made the world and all that is in it, this one being master of the heaven and the earth, does not dwell in dwellings made with hands. Nor is he served with men's hands as if needing any, himself giving to all life and breath and all else. And he has made from one blood every nation of men to dwell on all the face of the earth, having established beforehand the times and the boundaries of their dwelling, to seek the master, if at least they would reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from each one of us. If you can accept it, he is the very breath you are breathing right now. For in him we live and move and are, as also some of your poets have said, for we are also his offspring. So Yahuwah is everywhere. He's everything. We're in Yahuwah, and Yahuwah is in us. Look at Hebrews, or 2 Corinthians 5:1. So 2 Corinthians 5:1. For we know that if the tent of our earthly house is destroyed, that's these fleshly vessels, we have a building from Yahuwah, a house not made with hands, everlasting in the Shemaim. For indeed, if this we groan, longing to put on our dwelling which is from heaven, so that having put it on, we shall not be found naked. And so here we're talking about not made with hands, it's fleshly bodies, and then putting on our immortal bodies. Not a house not made with hands. Everlasting in the Shemaim. Immortal bodies. Put on our dwelling which is from the heaven, which is our immortal bodies. Okay, and so we can relate to that and see that Yahuwah does not dwell in houses made by hands, and neither can we. Our eternal houses are our immortal bodies. Other than that, we're just going to die. Look at Hebrews 9:11. Hebrews 9:11 says, but Mashiach, having become a high priest of the coming good things, through the greater and more perfect tent, not made with hands, that is, not of this creation, entered into the most set-apart place once for all, not with the blood of goats and calves, but with his own blood, having obtained everlasting redemption. So here we begin now. A greater, more perfect tent, okay, or house or body or vessel not made with hands, that is, not of this creation, not of this world, okay, but in the world to come, an immortal body, a spiritual body, okay. And so this is what this is kind of showing us, is that Yahusha's body or his assembly is going to be a spiritual body, not made with hands, but erected with living stones, which is us, his bride. He's going to dwell his bride so that him and his bride are one for eternity. So if you want to be his bride, then you need to understand that you're going to be one with Yahusha for eternity. You're going to be his body, his spiritual body. Look at 1 Peter 2, 4 through 10. Drawing near to him, a living stone. So you're going to be a living stone. Rejected indeed by men, but chosen by Elohim and precious. You also, you're going to be a treasured possession. You also, as living stones, are being built up. See, he's building up his third temple with living stones, which is us, to indwell for eternity. That's who the bride is. It's his body. A Ruach-like house. See, a spirit-like house. A Kadesh priesthood, to offer up Ruach-like offerings acceptable to Elohim through Yahusha Mashiach. Because it is contained in the scripture, see, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, chosen, precious, and he who believes on him shall by no means be put to shame. This preciousness, then, is for you who believe, but to those who are disobedient, the stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone, and a stone of stumbling, and a rock that makes for falling, who stumble because they are disobedient to the word, to which they also were appointed. That's the everlasting covenant, or the 10 Commandments, if you will, the marriage covenant. But you are a chosen race, the bride, your chosen race, a royal priesthood, a set-apart nation, a people for a possession, that you should proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. You once were not a people, but now the people of Elohim, who had not obtained compassion, but now obtain compassion. So we will have bodies of lights. We will be Yahusha's body of light forever, for eternity. He will indwell us. We're the living stones. Our bodies of lights all together will make up Yahusha's body of light, his eternal body of light. That's who the bride is. We will be one with Yahuwah forever. We will, everywhere he goes, we'll go, because we're going to be his body of light. All together now, make up his one body, his one dwelling place, his body of light. Look at Matthew 13:44. Again, the reign of the Shemaim is like a treasure hidden in a field, which a man having found it hid. And for joy over it, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. And that's us. So we're a treasure hidden in the field. The field is the earth, the world. Again, the reign of the Shemaim is like a man, a merchant, seeking fine pearls, whom, when he had found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. We are that pearl of great price. We're the treasured possession. We're his bride, his chosen, his elect. Again, the reign of the Shemaim is like a dragnet that was thrown into the sea and gathered some of every kind, which, when it was filled, they drew to the shore. And they sat down and gathered the good into the baskets, but threw the rotten away. Thus shall it be at the end of the age, judgment day. The messengers shall come forth and separate the wicked out of the midst of the righteous. So they're going to take out the tares out of the wheat, and shall throw them into the furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of the teeth. Yahusha said to them, have you understood all this? And they said to him, yes, Master, we understand. Yes, Master. And so the weeds, the tares will be removed, and the only thing that's going to be left is the bride. They're going to throw them into the fire. All righty then. Let's look at 2 Corinthians 11. 2 Corinthians 11, 2 and 3 says, for I am jealous for you with a jealousy according to Yahuwah. For I gave you in marriage to one husband, to present you as an innocent maiden to Mashiach. But I am afraid, lest as the serpent deceived Kua by his trickery, so your mind should be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Mashiach. Okay, so be careful. Don't go astray. You're given in marriage to one husband as an innocent maiden to Mashiach. How so? Because the washing of water and the blood of the Lamb of Yahuwah is so powerful that it removes all your sins from you, all your trespasses, iniquities, or your stains, your blemishes, your wrinkles. It totally cleans you up as to returning you back to your maiden status. Totally cleaned up. And now you're a virgin again. And Yahuwah wants a virgin bride. He doesn't want a filthy bride. He will not accept a filthy bride. She must be cleaned up, even virgin status. He wants a virgin bride, clean, spotless, no blemishes, no wrinkles, nothing, just clean. Look at Ephesians chapter 5. Ephesians chapter 5. Become then imitators of Yahuwah as beloved children, and walk in love, as Mashiach also has loved us and gave himself for us, a gift and an offering to Yahuwah for a sweet-smelling fragrance. But whoring and all uncleanness or greed of gain, let it not even be named among you, as is proper among set-apart ones. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor coarse jesting, which is not fitting, but rather thanksgiving. For this you know, that no one who whores, nor unclean one, nor one greedy of gain, who is an idolater, has any inheritance in the reign of Mashiach and Yahuwah. So you cannot become the bride unless you clean yourself up. He wants a virgin bride. That's a requirement. Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of these the wrath of Yahuwah comes upon the sons of disobedience. What's the wrath of Yahuwah? That's when he pours out the bowls, the vials. Look at Revelation 16. Revelation 16 is all about the seven bowls. And I heard a loud voice from the Mishkan saying to the seven messengers, go and pour out the bowls of the wrath of Yahuwah on the Arats. See, there you go. So the seven bowls are the wrath of Yahuwah. Before that happens, the 3.5 years of tribulation is the wrath of Hashatan. Why? Because he gets thrown out of heaven and gets confined to the earth. And he's as mad as a hornet. Once he realizes he's been confined to the earth and he can no longer get back into the spiritual dimension, he's madder than a hornet and he goes nuts. So the 3.5 years of tribulation is the wrath of Hashatan. Armageddon, which is the wrath, the seven bowls poured out, is the wrath of Yahuwah upon the nations that are coming against Israel. Okay. All right. So the wrath of Yahuwah comes upon the sons of disobedience, the idolaters, the religious nuts, the traditions of men, their false teachings. Therefore, do not become partakers with them. If you're in a religion, get out of it immediately. For you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Master. Walk as children of light. For the fruit of the Ruach is in all goodness and righteousness and truth, proving what is well-pleasing to the Master. And have no fellowship with the fruitless works of darkness, but rather expose them. Expose the doctrines of demons. Expose their stratagem. For it is a shame even to speak of what is done by them in secret. But all things being exposed are manifested by the light. For whatever is manifested is light. That is why he says, wake up, you who sleep, and arise from the dead, and Mashiach shall shine on you. See then that you walk exactly, not as unwise, but as wise, not as the unwise maidens, but as the 5 wise maidens. Remember that parable? Redeeming the time, because the Yamam are wicked. So then do not be foolish, but understand what the desire of Yahuwah is. And do not be drunk with wine, in which is loose behavior, but be filled with the Ruach. That's a command right there, is to be filled with the Ruach HaKodesh is a command. Speaking to each other in psalms and songs of praise and Ruach-like songs, singing and striking the strings in your heart to the Master. Giving thanks always for all to Yahuwah the Father in the name of our Master Yahusha Mashiach. Subjecting yourselves to each other in the fear of Yahuwah. Now listen to this, from 22 to the end. There's a secret here about the bride, about being the bride. And for those who have ears to hear and eyes to see, you should be able to pick up on this secret about the bride of Yahusha here. Listen very closely. Wives, remember, the bride of Yahusha is his wife. Wives, subject yourselves to your own husbands as to the Master. Because the husband is head of the Asha, as also the Mashiach is head of the assembly, and he is deliverer of the body. But as the assembly is subject to Mashiach, so also let the wives be to their own husbands in every respect. Husbands, love your wives, as Mashiach also did love the assembly and gave himself for it, in order to set it apart and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word, in order to present it to himself a splendid assembly, not having spot or wrinkle or any of this sort, but that it might be set apart and blameless. In this way, husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. He who loves his Asha loves himself. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but feeds and cherishes it, as also the Master does the assembly, because we are members of his body, of his flesh, and of his bones. See that? We're his body. We're going to be his body of light forever. For this cause a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his Asha, and the two shall become one flesh. They're going to become one with Yahuwah. You're going to be his body. Become one with him. Now here's the secret. This secret is great. But I speak concerning Mashiach and the assembly, the body of Yahusha, the assembly. However, you too, everyone, let each one love his own Asha as himself, and let the Asha see that she respects her husband. Now, this is powerful stuff. If you're picking up what this is laying down, this is very powerful stuff. So this is what he's really talking about here, is him and his assembly, or his body, his eternal body of light, being one, and how you're supposed to treat your body, his body, and how you're supposed to behave yourself as his wife. That's what this is all talking about. It's really not talking about a man and a woman's marriage, as husband and wife in this fleshly world. I speak concerning Mashiach in the assembly. The secret is great. You must rise above the flesh, mind of the flesh, in order to understand this secret. It's great. But if you don't, at least love his own. You let everybody love his own ass as himself, and let the ass respect her husband, even if you can't see it, you don't understand it, because the secret is great. You have to rise up to a certain level in order to be able to understand this secret. This is not talking about a man and a husband, a woman, a man and woman's marriage. It's talking about Yahusha and his wife, Yahusha and his bride, his eternal body. With that in mind, read it again when you get a chance. Go to Philippians chapter 2, 1 through 16. Philippians chapter 2, 1 through 16. If then there are any encouragement in Mashiach, if any comfort of love, if any fellowship of Ruach, if any affection and compassion, make my joy complete by being of the same mind, having the same love, one in being and of purpose, doing nothing at all through selfishness or self-conceit, but in humility consider others better than yourselves. Each one should look out not only for his own interests, but also for the interest of others. So here we have the very first step in becoming the bride. This is well above and beyond the call of duty as far as the love command goes. It's above even the second greatest command that we find in Leviticus 19:18, to love your neighbor as yourself. It goes beyond that, okay? Because this is such a higher calling. Because only a remnant get to be the bride. So the standards, the level of achievement is so much greater for the bride than it is for anybody else that wishes to enter into the reign of the Shemayim and just be a friend of the bride or a belong to the Commonwealth of Israel. If you want to be the bride, be his wife, you must consider others better than yourselves, as he did. He considered others better than himself. He came down in our likeness and humbled himself even to the stake. And so he considered others' interest above his own interest. And he considered others better than himself. And that's what we have to do too. So this is the first step to achieving the higher calling or becoming the bride of Yahusha. This is vital. If you can't get beyond this step, there's no way you're going to accelerate above and beyond the call of duty in everything you do. You have to at least be able to achieve this. This is the very first step you got to take. For let this mind be in you, which was also in Mashiach, Yahusha. See that? Who being the essence of Yahuwah, considered it not theft to be the same as Yahuwah, yet emptied himself, taking the form of a servant, and came to be in the likeness of men. See that? He came in our likeness. And having been perceived in the form of a man, he humbled himself and became obedient to death, death even of a stake. Yahuwah therefore has highly exalted him and given him the name which is above every name, which is Yahuwah. That at the name of Yahusha every knee should bow, and those in the heaven and those on the earths, and of those under the earths, and every tongue should confess that Yahusha Mashiach is master, to the esteem of Yahuwah the Father. So see that verse 9, Yahuwah therefore was highly exalted him and given him the name which is above every name. Go to Psalms 138. Go to Psalms 138. Verse 2. I bow myself toward your set-apart temple and give thanks to your name for your kindness and for your truth. For you have made great your word and your name above all. For you have made great your word and your name above all. And so back over here in Philippians 2:9, has highly exalted him and given him the name which is above every name. And so that must be Yahuwah. For you have made your name, you made great your word and your name above all. And he's given him the name which is above every name. So he came in his Father's name then, Yahuwah. See that? Okay, look over here at Philippians 3:1-16. For the rest, my brothers, rejoice in Yahuwah. To write the same things to you is truly no trouble to me, and for you it is safe. Look out for the dogs. Look out for the evil workers. Look out for the mutilators. Those are those who was insisting that they have to have adult circumcision done in order for them to enter into the reign. They mutilate. Paul called them mutilators. For we are the circumcision who are serving Yahuwah in the Ruach and boasting in Mashiach Yahusha and do not trust in the flesh. So do not put your hope in adult male circumcision is what Paul's saying here. Though I too might have trusted in the flesh, I also, if anyone else thinks to trust in the flesh, I more. Circumcised the 8th Yom. See, you can see now in context what he's talking about. He's talking about adult male circumcision, putting your hope in being circumcised, is allowing you to enter into the reign of Yahuwah, and it does not. But they thought that it did. Of the race of Israel and of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of Hebrews, according to the Torah of the Prushim, according to a door, persecuting the assembly, according to righteousness that's in the law, having become blameless. So Paul here is saying that he was circumcised on the 8th day. His lineage was of Israel. He's from the tribe of Benjamin. He was a Hebrew of Hebrews. He knew the law like the back of his hand, and he kept the law religiously according to the Torah. According to the Torah of the Prushim, he obeyed their laws and their teachings. According to ardor, persecuting the assembly, he went after those who were spreading the Basor of Yahusha, the body of Yahusha. According to righteousness that is in the law, having become blameless. But what might have been gain to me, I have counted as a loss because of Mashiach. What is more, I even count all to be lost because of the excellence of the knowledge of Mashiach Yahusha, my master, for whom I have suffered the loss of all, and count them as rubbish in order to gain Mashiach. He threw all that stuff out and said, this is all rubbish. It cannot deliver me. It cannot get me into the reign of Yahuwah. It cannot make me the bride. Throw it all out and go after Mashiach. For whom I suffered the loss of all and count them as rubbish in order to gain Mashiach and be found in him, not having my own righteousness, which is of the law, but that which is through belief in Mashiach, the power of the blood of the Lamb of Yahuwah, the righteousness which is from Yahuwah on the basis of belief in the power of his blood. It's from Yahuwah on the basis of belief, to know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his suffering, being conformed to his death, if somehow I might attain to the resurrection from the dead. Not that I have already received or already have perfected, but I press on to lay hold of that for which Mashiach Yahusha has also laid hold of me. Brothers, I do not count myself to have laid hold of it yet, but only this, forgetting what is behind and reaching out for what lies ahead. I press on toward the goal for the prize of the higher calling of Yahuwah in Mashiach Yahusha. As many then as are perfect should have this mind. And if you think differently in any respect, Yahuwah shall also reveal this to you. And to what we have already attained, walk by the same rule, be of the same mind. Okay, so here Paul is trying to be the bride. He wants to be the bride. He's not sure if he's achieved that yet, but he's given us some more hints about what it takes to be the bride. Okay, belief in Mashiach's blood, not the blood of animals. To know him and to pursue to know him. That takes a lot of study, a lot of sacrifice in your time in order to get to know him and pursue to know him. And the power of his resurrection, understand it. Fellowship of his suffering, suffer with him. Being conformed to his death, you have to die with him, leave your old man in that watery grave. You're now a spiritual being, so act like it. Spiritual beings with a spiritual father. And I might attain the resurrection from the dead. So he's letting you know, which we have to do here to be counted as the bride, which he's calling the higher calling. Very powerful stuff here. Look at Revelations 7, 1 through 8. Okay, before we do that, let's look over at Luke 12 real quick. Go back to Luke 12. Just so we're clear here. Luke 12, everybody. So Luke chapter 12, verse 32. We'll start at 31. But seek the reign of Yahuwah, and all these shall be added to you. Do not fear, little flock, because your Father did delight to give you the rain. So there you go. So here is the only time that we find Yahusha mentioning little flock. Okay? Do not fear, little flock, because your Father did delight to give you the rain. All right. So this little flock, this remnant, is the bride. Yahusha's referring to as the little flock here. And then we go back over to Revelation 7, 1 through 8. We learn more about this little flock. And so in order to understand more about this little flock, let's read Revelation 7, 1 through 8 together. And after this, I saw 4 Malachim standing at the 4 corners of the arets, holding the 4 winds of the arets, that the wind should not blow on the arets, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another messenger coming up from rising of the sun, holding the seal of the living Yahuwah. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 messengers to whom it was given to harm the arets in the sea, saying, do not harm the arets, nor the sea, nor the trees, until we have sealed the servants of our Yahuwah upon their foreheads. And I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000. This is the little flock. Okay, so as he's finding his lost sheep or his bride, which is he is diligently searching for, then he seals them. Once he's found them, you're sealed with the name and sealed with you're sealed with the Ruach HaKodesh for the day of redemption. Okay. And so, which means the redemption of his bride, because he paid for her with his own blood. So the little flock consists of 144,000. Sealed of all the tribes of the children of Israel. The tribe of Yehuda, 12,000 were sealed. The tribe of Reuben, 12,000 were sealed. The tribe of Gad, 12,000 were sealed. The tribe of Asher, 12,000 were sealed. The tribe of Naphtali, 12,000 were sealed. The tribe of Manasseh, 12,000 were sealed. The tribe of Simon, 12,000 were sealed. The tribe of Louis, 12,000 were sealed. The tribe of Yisachar, 12,000 were sealed. Yisachar, the tribe of Zebulun, 12,000 were sealed. The tribe of Joseph, 12,000 were sealed. The tribe of Benjamin, 12,000 were sealed. Okay, so notice Ephraim's not in there. So Ephraim is coming out of the Gentiles. It's the other flock. After this, I looked and I saw a great throng which no one was able to count. So right after he reveals the number of the little flock as being 144,000, or the amount of lost sheep that makes up the bride or his body. Right after that, he says, and looked and saw a great throng, which no one was able to count, of all the nations and the tribes and the peoples and the tongues, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, dressed in white robes, palm trees in their hands, palm branches in their hands, and crying out with a loud voice, saying, deliverance belongs to our Yahuwah who sits on the throne and to the Lamb. So here we go, this great throng, this other flock that we're told in Yehukanan 10:16. Let's go there. Yehukanan 10:16. Yehukanan 10:16 says, and other sheep I have, which are not of this fold. I have to bring them as well, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. So there you go. So there's other sheep which are not of this fold. There's a different fold. So there's the little flock, and then there's the other fold or the other flock, which is a great throng. But there will be one flock. He's going to merge them together, and there's going to be only one shepherd. He'll shepherd the one flock once he brings them together. Okay, but right now there's other sheep I have which are not this fold. So there's two different folds: the little flock and the great throng flock. But he will bring them together later on as one flock, and he'll be the one shepherding them all. Okay. So let's look at that 9 through 17 there. And I saw a great throng which no one was able to count, out of the nations, tribes, peoples, and tongues, standing before the throne, before the Lamb, dressed in white robes and palm branches in their hands, and crying out with a loud voice, deliverance belong to Yahuwah who sits on the throne and to the Lamb. And all the messengers stood around the throne, and the elders and the 4 living creatures, and fell on their faces before the throne and worshipped Yahuwah, saying, Amen. The blessing and the esteem and the wisdom and the thanksgiving and the respect and the power and the might to our Yahuwah forever and ever. Amen. And one of the elders responded, saying to me, who are these dressed in white robes, and where did they come from? And I said to him, Master, you know. And he said to me, these are those who coming out of the great distress, having washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Because of this, they are before the throne of Yahuwah and serve him day and night in his temple. And he who sits on the throne shall spread his tent over them. That's tabernacles. Okay, and that's when he comes in tabernacles with both flocks, even they become one forever. They shall hunger no more, neither thirst any more, neither shall the sun strike them, nor any heat, because the Lamb who is in the midst of the throne shall shepherd them. He'll be one shepherd. He will shepherd them and lead them to fountains of mayhem of life, and Yahuwah shall wipe away every tear from their eyes. There we go. So the little flock, the bride, and the great throng, which we just read about here in Genesis, both the little flock in Revelation 7, 1-8, being the bride, and the great throng in Revelation 7, 9-17, will be united into one flock under one shepherd in the eternal reign. And they are dressed in white robes. That's their immortal bodies. They have immortality. They come out of the great distress. A throng, and I saw a great throng which no one was able to count. Out of all the nations, man, all of them, and the tribes, and the peoples, and the tongues. It's going to be a huge throng. The flock will be immense. It will be huge. Okay, so Yahusha reveals there's another flock that's not of this flock in Yehukanan 10:16. Let's look at Matthew real quick before we move on. Look at Matthew 25:32. So Matthew 25:32 says, and all the nations shall be gathered before him, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd separates his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on his left. Then the sovereign shall say to those in his right hand, come, you blessed of my Father, and inherit the reign prepared for you from the foundation of the world. Okay, so these people here, this is another group of people that are being let in of the fold that wasn't part, it's not necessarily part of the Great Tribulation, but just had lived during the end times. And so there'll be even others, according to Matthew 25:32. And so we see the other flock, seemingly even another flock, Yehukanan 10:16 and Matthew 25:32, and then in Revelation 7:9, a great throng that no one can even count came out of the days of distress, out of the tribulation years. All put together with the little flock that's in Luke 12:32 and Revelation 7:1-8, which numbers 144,000. It's also recognized or mentioned in Revelations 14:1-5. So we look at Revelations 14:1-5. And I looked and I saw a lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written upon their foreheads. See, they're sealed. This is the bride. These are the little flock we just read about in Revelation 7. And I heard a voice out of the heaven like a voice of many waters and like the voice of a loud thunder. And I heard the sound of harpists playing their harps. and they sing a renewed song before the throne, before the 4 living creatures and the elders. And no one was able to learn that song except the 144,000 who were redeemed from the Eretz. They were redeemed. They were paid for with the blood of the Ruach HaKodesh. They are those who were not defiled with women, for they are maidens. They are those following the Lamb wherever he leads them on, because they're his body of light. They were redeemed from among men, being first fruits to Yahuwah and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no falsehood, for they are blameless before the throne of Yahuwah. So there you go. There's that little flock, sealed with the name, sealed with the Ruach HaKodesh for the day of redemption. They were redeemed from the 144,000 were redeemed from the Eretz. They weren't defiled. They were maidens. They were returned back into their virgin status by the blood of Yahusha, the blood of the Lamb of Yahuwah, cleansed them and gave them back their maiden status. And there was no falsehood in their mouth. They were blameless before Yahuwah. They did not follow religions or traditions of men. They were truth seekers and truth speakers. And they found love, which was Yahuwah. And they found love. They married their husband because they were found love. They were in love with him once they found him and married him. And he married them. He entered into the everlasting covenant, or the love covenant, which people call the 10 Debarim or the 10 Commandments. So there we go. All right, let's look over Revelations 21 and Revelations 22. Actually, probably should go to 19 first. Let's go to Revelations 19 and read that. We get a good description here. 19, 21, 22 of the bride and what's going on here. So listen up. And after this, I heard a loud voice of a great throng in the heaven, a great throng, saying, Hallelujah! Deliverance and esteem and respect and power to Yahuwah, our Yahuwah, because true and righteous are his judgments, because he has judged the great whore who corrupted the Eretz with her whoring. And he has avenged on her the blood of his servants shed by her. And the second time they said, Hallelujah, and her smoke rises up forever and ever. And that means total destruction, total annihilation, non-existence. And the 24 elders and the 4 living creatures fell down and worshiped Yahuwah, who sat on the throne, saying, Amen, Hallelujah. And a voice came, Hallelujah means praise Yah. And a voice came from the throne saying, Praise our Yahuwah, all you his servants and those who fear him, both small and great. And I heard as the voice of a great throng, as the sound of many waters, and as the sound of mighty thunder, saying, Hallelujah, for Yahuwah Al Shaddai reigns. Let us be glad and rejoice and give him praise. For the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his Asha prepared herself. She got cleaned up while she walked in the dust. Judgment comes to the house of Yahuwah first. And to her was given to be dressed in fine linen, clean and bright, for the fine linen is the righteousnesses of the Kadeshim. That's your immortal body. And he said to me, Right, blessed are those who have been called to the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he said to them, These are the true words of Yahuwah. And I fell at his feet to worship him. But he said to me, see, do not do it. I am your fellow servant and of your brothers who possess the witness of Yahuwah. Worship Yahuwah, for the witness of Yahusha is the ruach of prophecy. And I saw the heaven open, and there was a white horse, and he who sat on him was called trustworthy and true, and in uprightness he judges and fights. It's the return of Yahusha HaMashiach. And his eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, having a name that had been written, which no one had perceived except himself, and having been dressed in a robe dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of Yahuwah. And the armies in the heaven, dressed in fine linen, white and clean, followed him on white horses. So he's coming back on a white horse, and the armies in the heaven, which are not raptured saints, okay, but Malachim, messengers, dressed in fine linen, white and clean, followed him on white horses. Look at Matthew 25. So Matthew 25:31. And when the Son of Adam comes in his esteem, and all the set apart messengers, not saints, messengers with him, then he shall sit on the throne of his esteem. So there you go. And when the Son of Adam comes in his esteem, and all the set apart messengers with him, then he shall sit on the throne of his esteem. Back over here to Revelations 19. 19 says, and I saw the heaven opened, and there was a white horse, and he who sat on him was called trustworthy and true, and in uprightness he judges and fights. And his eyes were the flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns that had been written, which no one had perceived except himself. And having been dressed in a robe dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of Yahuwah. And the armies in the heaven, dressed in fine linen, white and clean, followed him on white horses. So you can see that these are messengers, as described in Matthew 25:31. So this does not prove rapture. It actually debunks rapture. He's not coming back 3 times, folks. He's only coming back twice with his messengers, his army and the Shemaim on white horses. And out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall shepherd them with a rod of iron. And he treads the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of Al Shaddai. And on his robe and on his thigh he has a name written, Sovereign of Sovereigns and Master of Masters. And I saw one messenger standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the birds that fly in mid-heaven, come and gather together for the supper of the great Yahuwah, to eat the flesh of sovereigns, and the flesh of commanders, and the flesh of strong ones, and the flesh of horses and those who sit on them, and the flesh of all people, free and slave, both small and great. And I saw the behemoth and the sovereigns of the Eretz and their armies gathered together to fight him who sat on the horse and his army. That's going to be at Armageddon. This is what happens at the return, second coming of Yahusha to the Mount of Olives. And the behemoth was seized, and with him the false prophet, who worked signs in his presence, by which he led astray those who received the mark of the behemoth and those who worshipped his image. The 2 were thrown alive into the lake of fire, burning with sulfur. And the rest were killed with the sword which came from the mouth of him who sat on the horse, and all the birds were filled with their flesh. All righty then. Let's go look at Revelations 21. And I saw a renewed heaven and a renewed earth. For the former heaven and the former earth had passed away, and the sea is no more. No more sea. And I, Yahuchanan, saw the set-apart city, renewed Jerusalem, coming down out of the heaven from Yahuwah, prepared as a bride, adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the heaven saying, see, the tent of Yahuwah is with men. The sukkah of Yahuwah is with men. And he shall dwell with them, and they shall be his people. And Yahuwah himself shall be with them and be their Yahuwah. And Yahuwah shall wipe away every tear from their eyes, and shall be no more death, no mourning, no crying, and there shall be no more pain, for the former things have passed away. And he who was sitting on the throne said, see, I make all things new. And he said to me, write, for these words are true and trustworthy. And he said to me, it is done. So the reign of Yahuwah, the eternal reign, has come now. It is done. I am the leaf and the tall, the beginning and the end of his creation. To the one who thirsts I shall give of the fountain of the water of life without payment. The one who overcomes shall inherit all this, and I shall be his Yahuwah, and he shall be my son. But for the cowardly, the untrustworthy, and abominable, murderers, and those who whore, and drug sorcerers, and idolaters, and all the false, their part is in the lake of fire, which burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. Second death, folks, no hell. No place where Satan's going to be stabbing you in the butt with the pitchfork for eternity. Second death means you're going to die. You're not going to exist. It means non-existence. And one of the seven messengers held the seven bowls filled with the seven last plagues came to me and spoke with me, saying, come, I shall show you the bride. So this starts the description of the bride, Revelations 21:9. Come, I shall show you the bride, the lamb's Asha, the lamb's wife. And he carried me away to the Ruach, to a great and high mountain, and showed me the great city, the Kadesh Jerusalem, descending out of the heaven from Yahuwah, having the esteem of Yahuwah, and her light was like the most precious stone, like a jasper stone, clear as crystal, and having a great and high wall, having 12 gates, and at the gates 12 messengers, and names written on them, which are the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. 3 gates on the east, 3 gates on the north, 3 gates on the south, and 3 gates on the west. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them were the names of the 12 emissaries of the Lamb. And he who spoke with me had a gold measuring rod to measure the city and its gates and its wall. And the city lies four-cornered, and its length is as great as its breadth. And he measured the city with the rod, 2,200 kilometers length, and the breadth and the height of it are equal. And he measured its wall 65 meters according to the measure of a man, that is, of a messenger. And the structure of its wall was jasper, and the city was clean gold, like clear glass. And the foundations of the wall of the city were adorned with all kinds of precious stones. The first foundation, jasper, second, sapphire, the third, agate, the fourth, emerald, the fifth, sardonyx, the sixth, ruby, the seventh, chrysolite, the eighth, beryl, the ninth, topaz, the 10th, chirophase, and the 11th, jacinth, and the 12th, amethyst. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Each one of the gates was a single pearl. And the street of the city was clean gold, like transparent glass. So apparently the pearly gates are on the New Jerusalem, not on a place called heaven up on a cloud somewhere. And I saw no temple in it, for Yahuwah El Shaddai is its Mishkan and the Lamb. And the city had no need of the sun nor of the moon to shine in it, For the esteem of Yahuwah lightened it, and the Lamb is its lamp. And the nations of those who are delivered, nations of those who are delivered, there's going to be a lot of people there. Not just a few. There's going to be a lot of people. Nations of those delivered. That's a lot of people. If there's nations. With an S, it's plural. And the nations of those who are delivered shall walk in its light, and the sovereigns of the Eretz bring their esteem to it. There's the sovereigns of the Eretz. There's going to be sovereigns with a plural, and nations. There'll be a lot of people there. And its gates shall not be shut at all by night, by day or night, for Leah shall not be there. Will be no night, no shadows. And they shall bring the esteem and the appreciation of the nations into it. And there shall be by no means enter into it whatever is unclean, neither anyone doing abomination or falsehood, but only those who are written in the Lamb's scroll of life, because they won't be there. They'll be annihilated. So unclean, even doing abominations and falsehood ain't going to be there. They ain't going to enter because they're not going to be there. They're going to be annihilated. Okay, so now let's look at Revelations 22 for further edification of the bride, if you will. And he showed me a river of water of life, clear as crystal, coming from the throne of Yahuwah and of the Lamb. In the middle of its street and on either side of the river was the tree of life, which bore 12 fruits, each tree yielding its fruit each moon. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. And no longer shall there be any curse, and the throne of Yahuwah and of the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him. And they shall see his face, and his name shall be in their foreheads. And Leah shall be no more, and they shall have no need of a lamp or the light of the sun, because Yahuwah shall give them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. And he said to me, these words are trustworthy and true. And Yahuwah of the set-apart prophets has sent his messenger to show his servants what has to take place with speed. See, I am coming speedily. Blessed is he who guards the words of the prophecy of this book. And I, Yahuchanan, saw and heard these things. And when I heard and saw, I fell down to worship before the feet of the messenger who showed me these things. And he said to me, see, do not, for I am your fellow servant, and of your brothers, the prophets, and of those who are guarding the words of this book. Worship Yahuwah. And he said to me, do not seal the words of the prophecy of this book, because the time is near. That's a very interesting verse. Here, Yahuchanan is told, do not seal the words of the prophecy of this book, because the time is near. So the end of the latter days is near. And compare that to Daniel 12:4. Go to Daniel. Compare what's written there to Daniel 12:4. What Daniel's told. Daniel 12:4 says, but you, Daniel, hide the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall diligently search, and knowledge shall increase. So here Daniel is told to hide the words and to seal the book until the time of the end. Yahuchanan is told, do not seal the words of the prophecy of this book, because the time is near. So we must be here. We must be in the time of the end. We must be in the end of the latter days, because the book is not sealed. And we've been given edification of revelations now. Most understand revelations now. He who does wrong, let him do more wrong. He who is filthy, let him be more filthy. He who is righteous, let him be more righteous. He who is set apart, let him be more set apart. Don't matter, might as well be the best you can be, what you were made to be. And see, I am coming speedily, and my reward is with me to give each according to his work. Be the best you were made to be. Don't be lukewarm. If you're filthy, be filthy. Be more filthy. If you're righteous, be more righteous. If you're set apart, be more set apart. Be the best you can be for what you were made to do. And you got a better chance of making it into the reign of Yahuwah than if you're lukewarm. And he's going to spew out of your mouth. You're in big trouble. I am the leaf and the tall, beginning and the end, the first and the last. Blessed are those doing his commands, so that the authority shall be theirs to the tree of life and to enter through the gates into the city. Tree of life, Yahuwah, man. You're going to have access to Yahuwah, live with you, tabernacle with Yahuwah and his bride. But outside are the dogs, the unbelievers, the Gohim, the unbelievers, and those who enchant with drugs, and those who whore, and the murderers, and the idolaters, and all who love and do falsehood. I, Yahusha, have sent my messenger to witness to you these in the assemblies. I am the root and the offspring of Daud, the bright and morning star. And the Ruach and the bride say, come. And he who hears, let him say, come. He who thirsts, come. And he who desires it, take of the water of life without pain. So here in verse 17, we see that the Ruach and the bride say, come. They are married. They are one. They have united and become one. The bride has become the body of Yahusha, or the indwelling place, the temple of the Ruach, the bride of Yahusha, the body of light for the Ruach to indwell in forever. The Ruach and the bride say, come. They are now one in existence. They exist as one now. Very powerful stuff. Let's go back over to Psalms 45. Psalms 45, yeah. Psalms 45 says, my heart is overflowing with goodly word. I address my works to the sovereign. My tongue is the pen of a speedy writer. You are more handsome than the sons of men. Favor has been poured upon your lips. Therefore Elohim has blessed you forever. Gird your sword upon your thigh, mighty one, your excellency and your splendor, and ride prosperously in your splendor on the matter of truth and humility, righteousness, and let your right hand lead you to awesome things. Your arrows are sharp in the heart of the sovereign's enemies. Peoples fall under you. Your throne, O Elohim, is forever and ever. The scepter of your reign is a scepter of straightness. You have loved righteousness and hated wrongness. Therefore, Elohim, your Elohim, has anointed you with the oil of gladness more than your companions. All your garments are mirth and alloys. Cassia, out of the palaces of ivory, stringed instruments have made you glad. Daughters of sovereigns are among your precious ones. At your right hand stands the sovereignness in gold from Ophir. Listen, O daughter, and see, and incline your ear, and forget your own people and your father's house, and let the sovereign delight in your lovingness, because he is your master. Bow yourself to him. And the daughter of Zor with the gift, the rich among the people seek your favor. The daughter of the sovereign is all esteemed within the palace. Her dress is embroidered with gold. She is brought to the sovereign in embroidered work. Maidens, her companions following her, are brought to you. They are brought with gladness and rejoicing. They enter the sovereign's palace. Instead of your fathers are your sons, whom you appoint princesses in all the Eretz. I cause your name to be remembered in all generations. Therefore, the people praise you forever and ever. Wow. Okie dokie. Let's get a look here. Last but not least, let's go to the Song of Songs. The Song of Songs, chapter 4. A love letter from Yahuwah to his bride. A love letter from Yahuwah to his bride. Song of Songs, chapter 4. See, you are fair, my love. See, you are fair. Your eyes are as doves behind your veil. Your hair is like a flock of goats going down from Mount Gilead. Your teeth are like a flock of shorn, which have come up from the washing. All of them bear twins, and not one loses her young. Your lips are like a cord of scarlet. Your speech is lovely. Your cheeks behind your veil are like a piece of pomegranate. Your neck is like the tower of Daud, built for an armory, on which hang 1,000 shields, all the armor of mighty men. Your two breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle, pasturing among the lilies. Until the yam breaks and the shadows have fled, I shall go my way to the mountain of myrrh and to the hill of frankincense. You are all fair, my love, and not a blemish is on you. Come with me from Lebanon, my bride, with me from Lebanon. Look from the top of Amana, from the top of Shinur and Kerman, from the dens of lions, from the mountains of the leopards. You have put heart into me, my sister, my bride. You have put heart into me with one glance of your eyes, with one bead of your necklace. How sweet have been your loves, my sister, my bride. How much better than wine are your loves, and the fragrance of your perfumes than all spices. Your lips, O my bride, drip as the honeycomb. Honey and milk are under your tongue, and the fragrance of your garments is like the fragrance of Lebanon. A garden locked is my sister, my bride, a fountain locked, a spring sealed up. Your plants are an orchard of pomegranates with pleasant fruits, with henna, nard, and saffron, calamus and cinnamon, with trees of frankincense, myrrh and aloes, with all the chief spices. A garden spring, a well of living waters, and streams from Lebanon. Awake, north wind, and come, south. Blow upon my garden. Let its spices flow out. Let my beloved come to his garden and eat its pleasant fruits. Wow. What a love letter from Yahuwah to his bride. Mind blowing. Powerful stuff. All righty. That wraps up this evening's study about the bride. And so I think we all should have a better understanding now of what the bride is and what it takes to be the bride, and that only a remnant can be the bride. And so it's a higher calling. It's a race, and a race that we have to run to win. We have to try to win that race if we want to achieve that higher calling. Paul was chasing it. He was running the race. He wanted to achieve the higher calling and be the bride, and we all should too. So, be the bride. You know what it takes to be the bride now. You have to be an overachiever. It's not good enough to love others as yourself. You have to love others and consider others above yourself. It's not good enough to be water immersed and be immersed with the Ruach and then just sit in your house and hide the Basora and not share it. You need to get out there, be a fisherman, be a hunter, seek out the lost sheep, find the lost sheep, work the harvest, gather fruit for the reign of Yahuwah, and increase Yahuwah's kingdom. Increase his territory by finding lost sheep and getting people converted. So we got to work the harvest. We have to consider others above ourselves, love others more than we even love ourselves. We have to feed the flock. We have to shepherd the babes and shepherd the flock and feed them. There's a lot of things that we need to do, and one of them is putting love into action. We can't just give lip service to people. We have to love everybody more than ourselves, and we have to put our love into action to prove to Yahuwah that we love others. With no works attached to our love, Yahuwah's not buying it. We have to be spotless, blameless, no wrinkles. No, we have to have no lie in our mouth. We have to be righteous, display Yahuwah's righteousness in us, display Yahuwah's spiritual fruits in us. We need to represent Yahuwah and not ourselves. We need to put ourselves to rest. We died with Mashiach, and we need to leave our fleshly bodies dead in the grave, in that watery grave with Yahusha. And so these are some of the things we have to do to achieve that higher calling. So I hope everybody got as much out of this as I did, and I hope everybody achieves the higher calling and becomes the bride, the body of light of Yahuwah for eternity. And we all need to run that race and try to achieve that, so we're all together in eternity with Yahusha. I like to see everybody there. Look around at the wedding feast, and we're all there. Would be a wonderful thing. So let's strive for it, folks. Let's try to be the bride. Do the things that we need to do to accomplish that mission. Go up and beyond the call of duty. Do more than what's required of us. Do more than our duty is called to do. Go way beyond that. Achieve the unachievable. We can do it. We just put our minds to it. What else are we going to do in this life? Collect gold and silver that's is destined to be dust, destined to be destroyed and burned up with the rest of this world? It's not going to do any good. Can't take it with you. Let's put our sights higher on higher things. Let's be overachievers. Let's work to be the bride of Yahuwah. Everybody, let's do it, man. Let's do it. Don't forget about tomorrow. we're closing in on the end of Luke now. I think we're in chapter 20. So we only got 4 chapters to go. We'll probably knock out 2 or 3 tomorrow. And then the following week, we'll close out and finish the book of Luke, which is really quite an achievement, really. It's been a powerful study, and learned a tremendous amount. So if you haven't ever been there, come. Everybody's welcome to be there. We have 10 openings in the live broadcast. Everybody gets to talk and ask questions and give comments and thoughts and read. And then we have our participating members in the chat room with us, and we have our people watching incognito that just likes to sit there and watch and listen. So and that's good too. But whichever way you want to do it, be there or be square. It's right here on the Spark in You is Yah channel, the same channel that you're on right now. And we come on at 12 o'clock noontime, lunchtime, 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 o'clock p.m. or a.m. in Texas, 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the East Coast. And then whatever time zone you're in, you'll have to figure that out. But, be there, be square. And remember to stay in love with Yahusha and be the bride. So long, Natsaram, beloved of Yahuwah. Peace, love, joy to everybody. See all of you next week and a lot of you tomorrow. So long, folks.